Hey y'all, it's Nancy for Whimsy Stamps. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to make this Poppin birthday card using the Emboss Resist technique. So we're going to start out by using the Slumber Party clear stamp set. You can see all these adorable little images on there. And we're also using this Mini Slim Pickens 1 die, as well as the largest of the Mini Slim rounded die set. So we're going to cut a panel with the Mini Slim rounded, and then we're going to cut the inside of that panel so it has these 3 windows with the Mini Slim Pickens. So then I have everything together. I want my panels to get this heat resist, emboss resist treatment, just like the frame. So I have them all taped in place with some washi tape. And so you can see that I've loaded everything up in my MISTI, and I'm using the pillow as well as some of the smaller images from the stamp set to stamp in Versamark ink all over this background. And then I'm going to use, just as you can see, some white embossing powder. So I'll have the white on white, and then I hit it with my heat tool. Now you want to make sure, especially when you have tone on tone, that you're turning your panel in the light so you can see and make sure that everything gets melted and it's nice and shiny. If there are any places that are still dull or matte or gritty, you need to hit them again with a heat tool, because that's the powder and it has not been melted yet. So here I am coming in with my 3 colors of Distress Oxides. We've got yellow, green, and blue. And I'm just doing some very simple ink blending over the embossed images that I've already put on there. So this is where it kind of gets fun. You blend just simple down and dirty ink blending. Yeah, I don't even necessarily do the lightest to darkest. I started with yellow because yellow can really get lost sometimes when it's mixed with other colors. But I just do yellow on one end, blue on the other, and then I bring in the green in the middle, and then I just come back and I blend. So you want to just kind of make sure that those harsh lines are just kind of blended out a little bit. And this is where the magic comes in. All that ink blending is done, and then you take a rag, a clean dry rag, and you wipe off the ink from the embossing powder or from the embossed areas. So here, I'll show it up close to the camera here in just a second. Look at that. You can see on the right where I've wiped it off and on the left where I haven't. And that is just the magic of Emboss Resist. And there are so many ways that you can do it. This is very basic, but it's very fun. So I just really love that technique. I'm glad that I can share that with you today. If it's new to you, drop me a comment downstairs. And if it is not new to you, drop me a comment and let me know how you've used it in the past. I'd really love to talk to you guys downstairs in the comments. And so here you can see I have my sweet little images stamped out. I heat embossed them. I'm using some watercolor paper. And I just wanted to share this technique with you when I just am doing some simple watercoloring. I have my Arteza real brush pens, they're watercolor markers, and I just scribble some of the pigment out on my work surface, and I use a wet paintbrush to pick it up, and I put it down into the area that I'm going to paint. And when I want it a little bit darker, I'll go tip to tip. So I'll use the tip of my paintbrush and go to the tip of the marker and get a little bit more concentrated pigment. But if I want it even darker, you can see what I'm doing there, and I take my marker directly to my image. But I only do it where I want there to be some depth, maybe some shadow, something like that. So I just do it to one side so it looked like those dots were all shadowed on one side, and it just really kind of brings them to life. But I very rarely take the marker straight to the paper when I first start out. So here's where I'm starting to kind of construct my card. So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to keep these panels in place and get the frame out of the way. So ultimately I realize I need to keep the frame in place on the card base so that when I lay these inside panels down, that they are in the right place, so that once I put it all together, everything's going to be nice and lined up. So I am using some wet glue, as I typically do, because I need all the time for wiggle room that I can get. And because these, the panel as well as the card base are just the exact same size, I really don't have much wiggle room in terms of lining things up. So I really need to make sure that my edges are straight, that everything is aligned, and then I can push a little bit harder and make sure that that wet glue actually adheres down to the panel and not to the frame. And I hold it in place just until it takes hold. So then I can put down panel number 2 and panel number 3 because I know that everything is lined up, and then I pull the frame because I want my frame to be lifted up. You guys know I like some dimension, I like some lift, and so I lifted it up on some double-sided foam tape and of course added some wet glue so that I have that wiggle room time. And there, now look, it has some depth, it has some dimension, and you can still see that beautiful embossed resist. Now here I am putting down the sentiment. I did a little bit of partial die cutting with that to get it the way that it is. And I just am auditioning all my pieces, making sure I have everything that I want, everything that I need, and figuring out where all the players are going to be on stage, if you will. So I really thought, and I don't typically think like this, but I figured the slippers really needed to be below the pajama pants. So once I figured out where the jammies were going, then that's when I knew where the bunny slippers had to go, and everything else just kind of fell into place. So my 4 sweet images and my sentiment, everything is popped up on a little bit of foam tape just to, you know, go with that dimension, except I think the mask might be straight down. So here I'm taking my marker straight to the panel again. I felt like those pajama pants were a little bit flat, so I went straight in there and just added a little bit more depth and dimension to them with that marker to the paper technique, and here it is. You can see that beautiful gradient ink blending in the background. You can see the stamped images that have been embossed and the ink resisted them. We've got the pillows, we've got the little lipsticks. Then of course you can see the sentiment that has a little bit of ink blending on it as well to tie it in. And you can see that my coloring is not perfect by any means, but if you guys know me, you know that I try not to sweat those things. I like to do the best that I can, but as this should be pleasing and bringing joy and happiness, I try not to allow it to be anxiety provoking or allow me to be judgmental. So it is what it is. I think the overall composition is adorable. Y'all let me know what you think. And in the meantime, if you're interested in any of these products, I have them listed and linked downstairs. You can join me over on Facebook on the Whimsy Stamps Inspiration Facebook page, as well as Pinterest and Instagram. And until next time, this is Nancy, and I'm out.